Welcome to the Arrowheads Podcast, your official podcast of the PLL sanctioned supporter group, the Arrowheads, your one-stop shop for Utah Archers lacrosse. Welcome to another episode of the Arrowheads Podcast. We are your official podcast of the official supporter group of the Archers Lacrosse Club. With us today, we are excited. We have our first member of the coaching staff. And this guy was referred to as the mastermind that makes the Archers the best substituting in the league. With us today, Coach Kavanagh. Welcome to the episode.
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me.
All right, Coach. We do this every time we have somebody on. Tell everybody who's Brian Kavanagh.
Yikes. I'm Brian Kavanagh. I'm from Deer Park, New York, originally, which is on Long Island. I played goalie for Utah Archers head coach Chris Bates at Princeton University from 2010 to 2014, which makes me a classmate of Tom Schreiber's, a teammate of Ryan Ambler's. He's 2 years younger than us. It's like a little brother to us. And I spent 6 years coaching Division I lacrosse at the University of Vermont from 2016 to 2022, and just recently wrapped up my sixth season as an assistant coach with I guess actually first season with the Utah Archers and sixth total season with the Archers Lacrosse Club.
Awesome. So we're going to jump straight into it. I mean, you talk about coaching. We are kind of curious about that because you were playing for Bates. Now you're coaching with them and you're coaching some of the guys you played with. Can you kind of talk to us about that transition from player to coach and what kind of led that? I think we've all been coaches at one point, everybody here on the podcast. So we kind of want to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic for me for sure. I think it might say a little bit more of our failures as players than anything else, right? It's like you screw up somewhere down the road and you end up coaching the game. But no, I don't know if it was something I ever really anticipated doing. I think it probably came, unfortunately, more out of, my failures in terms of like achieving the goals that I wanted to do as an individual player and team success at Princeton. And that kind of drove me to stay involved with the game and chase success, that I hadn't had earlier. But the other piece is just like, I think everybody that plays the game and loves the game feels somewhat of a responsibility and an obligation to give back.
Yeah.
And I felt like I had a lot more to give the game after my playing career was cut short. So just happy to be involved, in any capacity and never really foresaw it, taking off to the levels that it's gone, but very, very grateful.
Okay. So no, that's an awesome answer. I mean, I can definitely relate to that as well. All my high schools are like, Coach, why didn't you play college? And you're like, well, I don't know. So going off of that, so Coach Bates was your coach in college. Now you're coaching alongside him. Can you kind of tell us how that's changed your guys' relationship, how you've gotten to know him better on the other side of the coin, and kind of what your role is as the Archers coach as well, one of the assistants?
Yeah, I mean, our relationships changed a ton. I think he would tell you, he might have saw me more as a pain in the ass than anything else. As a player at Princeton, I was kind of a little bit of a clown in the locker room and probably didn't take everything as seriously as I probably should have. But I think it's fun now to see how his kind of, as our relationships changed, I think his personality's changed a little bit. And part of that is the difference in coaching in college and professionally. You're coaching grown men who are highly self-motivated, so there's a lot less of like that, disciplinary, authoritarian figure
Mm.
type coaching going on. But it's been really cool to see him kind of relax and seem, to really enjoy the process. So I think where my sense of humor might have been a thorn in his side as a college player, I think now it might be a little bit more welcomed as an adult. So I'm thankful for that as well.
So you're like the comedic relief as far as the coaching staff goes. Someone's got to be the butt of the joke. Someone's got to make
I
things
like to
light
think so,
around.
I mean, I don't really know where else I'm contributing at that point. So I'm like, I'm the younger guy on the staff and with two pretty well, established coaches that probably don't really need too much help. So I got to find my role somehow.
No, to be honest, substitutions, from my experiences coaching, I have such a hard time counting how many guys are on the field, making sure that we're all good to go. Kids are running in, kids are running out. You don't know if they did it at the right time. So, I mean, you have a very important job. I don't know if you can just kind of talk to us about, yeah, what does game day look like for you? What are your responsibilities? What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much just counting to six over and over and over again. You got six guys on offense and not more, not less than that. Yeah, I mean, it's hectic, right? I think I always joke on game day, like I don't really see the game. I don't really know what happens. Like like our sideline cheers, and I turn to Coach Bates. I'm like, what just happened? Like, who scored? Like, what did we do? Or vice versa. We give one up in transition, and I'm like, what the hell just happened? I'm making sure we're not going off sides or whatever it is. But I think I owe a lot to that. I think my coaching journey in college kind of lent itself to my role currently with the Archers. I owe a lot to the University of Vermont and Chris Fifes, my old boss, and Jake Bernhardt, who was our other assistant at UVM. Those guys, I think the coaching staff kind of mirrors, what we've got going on with the Archers, where those guys are such great coaches. And when I came in initially as a volunteer, like my responsibilities were pretty limited to, substitution box, coaching the goalies, coaching the man down.
Yeah.
Um, and so I kind of embraced that role. And I'm like, all right, if this is it started off like, all right, this is great. Please don't give me any responsibility because I don't know what I'm doing. But I kind of turned that into, all right, I'm not running a side of the ball per se, but I'm gonna dominate my role here, and I'm gonna try to see how I can have an impact. And I think that taking the substitution piece seriously and just making sure I had, all my, that facet of the game buttoned up at the collegiate level, it kind of prepared me to be able to do that, with the faster paced game in the PLL.
Well, and this is my last comment, and I'm going to hand it off. But that is really important because you think about with the Archers in particular, a lot of early offense is done through substitution with you guys, right? And I think that's by design. I mean, Tom coming out of the box, Dyson William comes out of the box, and that's part of offensive game plan is to get it like a mismatch and make the defense miscommunicate. One of my favorite plays is when Mason Woodward comes over through a transition as a 2-point threat without any defender knowing what's going on, and all of a sudden there's a guy coming down who has some range and has 10 yards of space, So it is really important, and we've seen it be part of your guys' game plan over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, I think the addition of Mason too has kind of opened up a lot for us. That's something I think that we've had at least mentally in our repertoire, and we may met. I rib Matt McMahon a little bit. He's one of my best friends. But we used to that swing play we run was longbow for us. We called it the first year, and Matt was the guy somehow. That was like the swing guy that's going to take the shot. And I think he'd be the first to admit that his stick skills are nowhere near what Mason's are. So I think Mason's skill set, and then just obviously, 5 more years of trust from Coach Bates has lent itself, to us being a little bit more creative and dangerous there.
Awesome.
I
Right.
have to ask. I have to ask on that real quick. Sorry, Toast. Do you still, like every other coach, when you see the pole cross the line, is there somebody yelling midi back like every youth coach does to
Yeah.
this day?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I think those guys probably get sick of me. I try to be like super proactive with the communication. So I think at this point our guys they are pretty good about it. It's counting a hat, yell at, Ryan's probably like I give Ryan a ton of grief, but he's like my whipping boy because I know he can take it. Um, but like I'll just be screaming, if we've got one or two guys going over, especially a pole, I'll just be screaming nobody. Right? We get one, we get two, or we get nobody, and I'm screaming nobody more often than not when Mason's running in transition. So yeah, that's like my worst nightmare is a pole carries the ball over, and all of a sudden we've got seven and going the other way and score, and Coach Bates give me the evil eye like I'm an 18-year-old freshman again.
You hear that, Redwoods? Come on.
Hey, so Coach, one thing you mentioned is just how your role has expanded over the years and how you kind of started out with just that one thing in mind with the substitution box. I was curious how much that role has expanded? Like, are you in talks with like starting lineup decisions or like potential areas of improvement in the offense? Like, are there areas that you have more leeway in now?
No, I mean that's a good question. I think I don't know. Yes, the short answer is yes. I think I have a ton of respect for Coach Bates and Coach Resch, and those guys are so egoless that I feel like it's very much like a three-headed monster. We're constantly talking about, everything as a whole as a staff. But Coach Bates has a pretty strong command of the offense and 6-on-6 and vice versa with Coach Resch. But it's a constant conversation. And it's more, I think I try to like recuse myself from those conversations more often than not. I try to approach coaching the same way that I approach, playing, and like I feel like a lot of coaches are hypocrites, right? Like you preach to players like, hey, find a role. It's really important to just find a role and do your job really well. So, I'm not really looking to expand my role too much. I'm like, I've got enough on my plate and I'm going to do this as well
Right.
as I possibly can. And I think that's, proven to be successful for us.
Right. That's great. And then I've got one other question, a little more cheeky, but just you can keep it between us too. Like this can be just an us thing, but I'm
Sure,
curious
sure.
who's your favorite player on the team? Who's a no drop no whatsoever?
You're gonna be splitting here. So favorite player, like their game, like game wise, or like just are we talking favorite human being here? Because
Really
you're
like
oh,
personal, just who they are as a person.
oh my God. You're killing me. I mean, I've this will be a fun one. So I'm not gonna answer Tom or I've known Tom, since I was 12 years old. His dad was the coach of my first club team. So like we go way back and then obviously playing in college together and Ryan the same deal. I've known him for well over a decade at this point. Those guys are two of my best friends in the world, but let me see if I can stray here and pick somebody else. Uh, man, I might have to go with the UVM boys too. Warren Jeffrey, is a guy that, if you're ever in a bar fight, you want him in your corner. I love that guy. I got to coach him for 3 years at UVM and Nick Washuta, same thing. I coached him for 4. And he might be. I know Ryan. I listened to his episode with you guys, and he sung his praises, rightfully so. Like that guy could easily win Teammate of the Year every single year. So what? I'll go with Tub. I'll go with Nick Washuta.
Love it. That's
Love
awesome.
it.
You touched on the fact, and we like I think we tell everybody we do a little digging, we're a little creepy, we dig into people's backgrounds before we talk to you. But you've known Tom for a long time. You played with Tom, you played with Ryan. Now you're a coach on the sideline. Like, how does that mindset change from like you're my friend, but now I'm coaching you?
Yeah, I mean, listen, the nice thing is like kind of how I alluded to it with the coaching change from college to pro is like these guys they don't need much. You're not really keeping them in line. You're not there's no there's no like disciplinary stuff and there's really very little to no motivation. Like these guys are clearly playing for a reason. Like they want it. Um, but the interesting thing that I realized early on, like the first year is like these guys want to be coached. Like it's not just like, oh, we're adults and we're professional athletes. Like we don't really care. We're gonna do our own thing. Like they want insight. So I think you earn their respect through your preparation. And if you have, you're not just talking BS like just to be heard, but if you have an opinion or a point that needs to be made that actually holds value and can help them on the field, I think they really respond to it. And Tom and Ryan were great from day one with me, just being my friends, and I wasn't really sure how it was going to go, if it was going to be really awkward or if they were going to tune me out. And it was kind of the polar opposite, where they were just like probably gave me even more respect than I deserved, and it kind of trickled down the line. And now it's a little bit different, because they're the older guys and I'm older than the majority of the team now, which was not necessarily the case the first uh, year or two. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty seamless. I was definitely nervous about it, but those guys, definitely gave me the confidence to just they know I know the game, they know I'm preparing and putting in a lot of work. So um, I owe a lot to those guys for sure.
I love that. And I mean, you to say that Tom's dad coached you, like you think about through all the years, like talk to us about some of those coaches that maybe kind of influenced you in the way that you coach today.
Yeah, I mean, like flat out, I don't like I don't have a shot at going to Princeton or probably having a future in this game if not for Doug Schreiber and our other coach Mike Winkoff for my first club team, Long Island Metropolitan Select, back before the club landscape really exploded. I'm dating myself. That was like the team on Long Island. And I'm from Long Island. I think everybody kind of assumes like grew up with a stick in your hand, like went to, a powerhouse high school. And it's not really the case. I went to Deer Park High School is not very good at lacrosse. I'm sure there's a lot of high schools in Utah that would kick the crap out of us. So, showing up to the tryout, I think that there's like 800 plus kids that show up to the first tryout and it gets weeded down over like 4 or 5 different weeks. And to their credit, I think the whole thing was really done on merit. And I remember being 12 years old and having Doug Schreiber and Mike Winkoff pull me aside and be like, "Hey, like you have a future here. Like, do you want to play college lacrosse?" And I end up making that team, and it kind of it changed my life really. So yeah, for sure, I've been super lucky. I think I've had really good coaches that just come in and in really important moments in your life and change how you develop as a player and as a person. And I just appreciate those guys giving me a shot because I think today everybody talks about it's so political and this and that, and there's different reasons why kids get selected, but it gave me confidence as a kid that like, oh hey, I can really do this. And that's, I try to do the same now. I coach club lacrosse in New Jersey, and I'm coaching at a high school now, and I'm, trying to empower these kids to, show that, one, I believe in them, but they should believe in themselves, and this game can take you places. So for sure,
Awesome.
coaches have had a massive impact in my life.
Love that. Coaches, listen up. The youth coaches make a difference. Um, Question about like a day in the life. Like during the season, you have, we see everybody on game days. You hear about players, what they do. For coaches, what is it like for you week to week during the season?
Uh, I mean, it's hectic. We try to put a lot into it. I think you get in what you put out, or you get what you put into it, like anything else. So we probably over prepare. I think that's like one thing. Eh, Coaching at different levels, you realize like different ages can handle different amounts of information. Like it's not really what it's what you can transfer to the player and have them hear, because like you can I can watch 5 hours of film and regurgitate every little detail of every little play, but that's it's not going to be helpful, right? It's just going to be overkill at some point. So I think I think figuring out picking and choosing like the important pieces, especially since we don't get to spend a ton of time together. We get together once. Wednesday is usually our film day where we kind of break down the game from the previous week and talk a little bit scout ahead of the next week, and then maybe we do a little bit more the night before in the hotel after practice. But it's not a ton of time together, so it's like you have to be super efficient in what you're delivering to the team. And I think those guys do a ton on their own. Um, but it's more stressful, I think. Even though it's less of a commitment, it's more stressful because it's like I feel like I don't have any impact. Like it gets to the point where you're just like, all right, it's game day. Like I'm gonna run the box and kind of we're gonna roll the dice, and whatever it shakes out, it shakes out. So that's the like coaching versus playing. I'm sure you guys feel the same way. It's like you want to have an impact on the game, but you're so helpless at times that it's
Yeah.
infuriating.
Yes, 100%. So you talk about impact and changes. Like one question I had is rule changes that have happened. League has changed the face off the last 2 years. You're the guy that runs the box and substitutions. I'm sure that changes things every year. And then throughout the season, you're making adjustments, right? I'd love to know kind of when number one, when you guys hear about rule changes. And number two, do you have any input in them? And number three, like how you adjust during the season, like as you're learning these new, how things are working.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm going to try not to get myself in trouble here with a few of the details because I mean that's like I mean even when I was coaching in college like I'm kind of a nerd for this stuff like I read the rule book like cover to cover because I always just feel like there's little loopholes in there and if you're not trying to exploit the rules I think you're leaving something on the table and the rules do have changed year to year and I think the rule set in PLL and the dimensions of the field, there's so much room to kind of break the game a little bit, so to speak. That we do spend a lot of time on it. The face-off rule thing, this is where I was saying I might get myself in trouble. They released the face-off rule change, I think, 2 days after the draft. Um, when we drafted Sis. So it was like, we're fired up. We're like, oh, we finally got our face-off guy. Like we're pumped up, obviously to have Sis, and obviously it still worked out. But we draft him fifth overall. We use a first round draft pick on a face-off guy, and all of a sudden you change the rule to a 32-second shot clock days after, and we were like, what are what are we doing? It would have been nice to. I think we still probably would have done the same thing. So, we're splitting hairs, but yeah, it was a little bit of funky timing on that one. But they have, to the league's credit, they've now they do take our opinions into account. They're constantly that there's an end of year survey about rule changes, potential rule changes and votes, and so I think they do a really good job of pulling players and coaches and making sure that the on-field product is as high quality as possible.
That's awesome. And with that, looking at the different changes that you noticed from the last 2 years, because I mean, it's really been a short time with these new rule changes and you trying to figure it out. What have been your biggest takeaways from this last year? What has made the Archers so successful over the past 2 years with these rule changes? And like, what's the strategy going forward? And like, without telling the secret ingredient to other teams, obviously, but
Yeah.
like, what do you think the future is looking like?
I just think I mean where we've been successful the last 2 years and it's less about like the creative subbing pattern stuff is what it is. I think you'll see a little bit more and more of that. With how skilled polls are now too. I think everybody will start to do a little bit of the subbing exchange between midline and box and that stuff's all great. But it's not necessarily worried about revealing any secrets because I think our team has been the most disciplined in relation to specifically end of shot clocks. On both ends. So like offensively, 10 seconds left on a shot clock, we have a white call. Usually we're yelling at those. Tom, it's a long standing joke now that I start yelling white like at like 40 seconds on the shot clock. The offense that I don't let them play. Ryan and Tom like to give me crap about that one, but usually around like 12, 13 seconds, we'll give a white call so that like at 10, it's like, okay, there's 10 seconds left. What are we doing? We're not, we're doing our best not to throw upfield passes, to turn the ball over upfield towards our defensive end late in the shot clock. Or we're cognizant of, being disciplined and conservative and dumping the ball in the corner and setting up our deep ride and getting our offensive personnel off. And then flip side on defense, right? It's a posture call. We have a mayday call with 10 seconds left, letting us know that, if the other team's subbing, we have a power call, letting us know that we have an extra defender on as kind of a free slide. So I think we steal, a goal or two there. And then obviously having Connor Fields in the last 10, 15 seconds of a shot clock is always helpful. That guy's kind of an individual great game breaker, cheat code for the late shot clock. But I think we, steal multiple goals within a game just by being disciplined late in shot clocks on the offensive and defensive end. And that's just, I mean, that's not like certainly we prepare for it and we talk about it, but that's just our guys buying in and knowing how important it is and trusting that we're a really good half field offense and defense and just playing to our strengths.
Love
Love
it.
it.
And then just one last question from me. I'm curious on what you think the biggest thing that the Archers team needs to improve on. Obviously, we've got two chips. We're looking to get three in a row. What are the areas you think, coming from your technical brain, what do you think we need to improve on?
Man, what do we need to improve on? Uh, I don't know, man. We're pretty solid. I give those guys a lot of credit. I don't want to be too nitpicky. I mean, you can always. I think the biggest area of improvement for everyone is clearing and more so. It drives me nuts. Uh, if any of my youth players or high school guys listen to this, then I'm kind of a clearing Nazi. Like you should be able to clear 100% every time. I know that's a ridiculous thing to say, but I think in a time where everybody's so concerned about possession time, and it usually gets talked about from a face-off standpoint of like, oh, we're facing off at 40%. That's why we don't have enough possessions and we're losing games. But meanwhile, you're clearing 75 or 80%. It's like it's probably easier to make up that 10% possession time just by clearing better, and being organized and having good spacing. So that's the way I like to think about it. I don't really know what our clearing percentage is offhand, but it's not pro. I don't think everybody's a little bit more concerned about getting their personnel on and off the field. So clearing percentages are definitely closer towards 100%, but it's the efficiency of like, all right, that 52 starts when you have possession on your defensive end. So like, how do we not waste time? We're getting to the right spots on our clear. We're getting up and out, and we're getting the ball in the hands of our guys that are paid to score goals. With an adequate shot clock number left where I'm not yelling white at 40 seconds and getting crap from Tom and Ryan. So I think there's always room to improve there. Just efficiency of clearing and transition from specifically from defense to offense.
Awesome. I love it. Appreciate it.
Kind of a cop out answer, but
No, I love it.
that's the one I got.
All right, last couple of questions I have for you, Brian. Top five moments as an Archers coach.
Top five?
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Man, do you have any suggestions for me? I mean, the championships are
And
tough. It,
something funny or a spoof would be cool too,
what's that?
like a spoof or something funny that happened during a game or something. We would accept that as
Okay,
well.
so it's not necessarily just on-field moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the first championship is like another cop-out, easy answer, but I mean, I gotta give it. I think there's a lot of weight to that one, more relief than anything else. I think the first 4 years of the Archers' existence, but then also like making it personal and going back to, my relationship with Tom and Ryan and Coach Bates and, not getting it done at Princeton. And it's been kind of a long time coming for Coach to win it. And I think that, the first one in 23 was really for him and was cool to see the celebration, but more of a relief than anything else. Um, Man, honestly, one that popped in my head. I mean, this is going to be the Nick Washuta show, but Nick filled in for actually Brett's rookie year, visa issues like the first 3 4 weeks. So Nick was our backup goalie when Adam was still our starter, and on Long Island, Nick gets to go in the game. He spent training camp with the Chrome that year, and got cut. They had just drafted Owen McElroy, so they were kind of playing their future, and he stepped in. I think he made 3 or 4 saves, was 100% at the end of the game, and it was just like really cool. Another guy that I love and coached for 4 years in college, to see him have success, and now obviously he's broken into to be our backup goalie. That was a very cool moment. Um, getting Graham Hossack back in week 4 this year might have been an all-time top moment
Amen.
for us. We actually found out, so we were crazy timing. We had our ring ceremony at training camp this year, and Graham was not at training camp, but like 20 minutes after it was a cool dinner. Like it was really cool to reminisce about the 23 season and the success and everything. And all of a sudden we get back to the dorms and Coach Bates has a text from Graham saying like, because we had no idea. We didn't know if he was going to be out the full year or when he was going to be ready to rock. And he's like, I think I'll be ready to go in 3 weeks. And we like, I think the three of us, Coach Resch, Coach Bates, and I, did a little dance in our common room in the Albany dorms. So we kind of knew that we help was on the way. Um, yeah, there's a lot of training camp moments, honestly. I think we get a lot of juice from there. So there's been some good pranks. Matt McMahon
Yeah.
uh, brought back his prank from the year previous and was played a role. I don't know how much I can even talk about this. One, because I'm not sure. sure about the legality around it, but I think I think we might run it back in years past. But let's just say that Archer's rookies are not aware of what Matt McMahon looks like without a helmet. Uh, he was able to play a role um, under another name in another profession where we pranked the rookies pretty good. But
Nice.
that's a top moment for sure. In the year prior, Connor DeSimone was the uh, was the big prank, and that's an awesome moment. But I can't share too much on that because I think we might be running that prank back again here. Um, where am I at? How many have I given you?
Giving us three.
Oh, jeez.
I think that's no, it's four. You had the championship. I think that's four. So go one more.
Man. I don't know. I think training camp every year, that might be another cop out, but I just think training camp is so fun, and we get so much out of it. So I'm like, looking forward to training camp. Even driving up this year, I picked Tom up at his house, and driving up, it was like, you're like giddy again, like you're a kid going to college or you're going away to summer camp or something. You get to see your buddy. And I'll segue that in. I think that we get a lot out of training camp, and just spending that time together in the dorms is always something that we value and look forward to. And I think there's other teams that every year there seems to be a few guys that you hear about are staying in a hotel somewhere or got an Airbnb, some veteran guys, and you're like, oh, those guys are in trouble this year. Like we've got an edge on them. So um, I'll just say training camp in general. I know I used a couple stories from there already, but it's so fun and it's fresh on my mind, and I'm already looking forward to getting there in May.
Love it. Coach, thank you so much for being on with us. We really appreciate your time. Like I say, you come highly recommended from Ryan Ambler. He was like, "Hey, you got to talk to Coach." But at the same time, like there's articles about you, like what you do is so well respected in the league, and again, we're grateful as Archers fans that you're on our sideline. Like we've told everybody else, thank you for everything you do for the team and for Utah and for Utah lacrosse. Like it's makes it very easy to be fans when you guys keep winning championships. So just keep doing it. Make it real easy for us to keep winning.
I
So
really appreciate it. I think Ryan, I don't know if you see them, like my favorite meme right now is the one where it's like it'll be like a D-back in football or like a basketball guy like clamping on defense, and it's like how I defend my friend, behind his back, and then it's like the asterisk, I've never said a good word to his face. That's my relationship with specifically Ryan Ambler, but Tom Schreiber and Matt McMahon as well. I think all the articles are funny and I really appreciate it, but I don't think anybody would know my name if Ryan Ambler wasn't on the media tour, like, you know, talking about me any moment he got. And again, he's never said a nice thing to my face. So um, it's been a pleasure to be with you guys, and I appreciate
Hey,
love it.
we'll amplify it as well, you know?
it. Good stuff.
Good stuff. All right, Brady, you want to take us out?
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, your shirt is perfect because you're definitely a very fun guy. We've loved getting to know you a little bit, and thank you for everything that you do. We always close out the show with just this motto that the PLL assigned to every single team, and inside the jerseys, in the Archer jerseys, it says "above all else, win," and that's what you've helped us do. So, thanks, man, and above all else, win. Let's go for another one.
Yes,
Of course,
sir.
man. Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
You guys have been a huge part of it. This first year being in Utah has been second to none. Like we couldn't be more thrilled. So thank you guys.
We're just getting started.
Thanks, coach.
All right.
Thanks, Coach. This podcast is not affiliated with the Premier Lacrosse League or Archers Lacrosse Club. This is an independent, fan-run podcast.